In this week's drive, we add to a huge crash repair bill, watch as teammates make double trouble, slip by without trading paint for a change, and mix motocross with acrobatics to defy gravity. All this and more in this week's Drive. We start this week with the woes at Williams. Once the mightiest team in the paddock, Williams BMW is having a dreadful season. Juan Pablo Montoya said months ago he'll race for rivals McLaren next year, and Ralf Schumacher, injured in the American round, goes to Toyota in 2005.
It was not an easy decision to take because I was 6 years with the team, which we had some good success and obviously difficult times, but it's a great team, Williams, as a team.
Ralf broke 2 bones in his back and is out for several weeks. He'll be replaced by one of the team's test drivers, Antonio Pizzonia or Marc Genet, who's hoping for a race seat next year.
I hope I don't have to stay that long because I hope Ralf comes back very soon. I know nobody really knows exactly for how long he'll be out, but I expect Ralf to come back, not so many races away. I hope to stay next year, certainly, and there's still 2 cockpits available at the moment. And the fact that I'm racing, I think, makes me be in a good position. It won't be easy, but I'm thinking more of staying for next year. This year, I'm just standing in for Ralf until he gets back.
In fact, Williams will be happy if Ralf doesn't race again. His salary is insured for £4.5 million. But the team needs to find 2 top-line drivers for next year. One is probably Jaguar's Mark Webber, and the other, perhaps, McLaren's displaced David Coulthard.
We think that we have someone who could potentially replace some of that gap. And we're still deciding on who our 2 drivers will be for next year. And in the due course, we will announce who it is. So, but you need to fill both gaps, the skill of the driver and also their development capability.
Top British driver Jenson Button has been on the podium 6 times this year, but he admits he's not yet on a par with Ferrari's Michael Schumacher.
Ferrari have said in an interview that they think that Michael's driving better than he ever has, which is good to know, because they are performing, they are doing a very good job. You know, the car is working very well, Michael's doing a good job, the people doing the strategies are doing a fantastic job. They've really worked on every area possible, and nothing, you know, they never seem to have any problems with strategy or reliability, and we can learn from that, you know.
One of the philosophies we try to encourage or insist, in fact, of Ferrari is that everybody is responsible for the reliability of the car. It's not just the mechanics putting the car together at the end of the day. Even the drivers have to take a responsibility for the reliability of the car, because if they abuse the car, then it's going to fail. So everybody has a responsibility for the reliability of the car. And the design, the manufacture, the inspection, the installation. So we have a very strong culture in that respect. We have a very strong culture of fault reporting and error reporting, so that everybody gets a lot of feedback on the problems that may have occurred with the car. And we have a report system that makes sure that every person in the factory has a list of everything that may have gone wrong with the car that particular weekend.
Ferrari, Schumacher and Barrichello continue to rewrite the record books. The team hopes their drivers will continue their exceptional run, in which Barrichello has taken points in every race to date, and Schumacher has only failed to score once when he crashed in Monaco. He's won every other race so far, 10 from 11 starts, and the pair have taken the top 2 places in more than half the races this season. However, McLaren have a new model with better grip, and a new Mercedes engine gives more power. With it, Kimi Raikkonen made his first start from pole position and his first visit to the podium this year at the British Grand Prix. Ferrari know this and are ready to fight back. With a view to expanding international interest, the DTM German touring cars took to the streets of Shanghai in China. 2 demonstration races were scheduled, but for Bernd Maylander, at the top of the screen, it would be a very short day. Slow off the line, the German drove over a displaced manhole cover and the race was stopped so that his badly damaged Mercedes-Benz could be removed from the track. All the covers were welded shut and the second race cancelled. Once the manhole cover had been replaced and the surface was cleared of debris, the race restarted. Gary Paffett started from pole position and the Briton would hold his lead into the first corner, but Martin Tomsik's charge up the field from 4th place would end in tears as the German made contact with Tom Christensen of Denmark. Paffett, who won the previous DTM round at the Norris Ring in Germany, continued to lead, but began to feel reigning champion Bernd Schneider breathing down his neck. Just behind the duel for the lead, Jean Alesi was challenging Rinaldo Capello for 3rd place. The former Formula One star would overtake the Italian, but was later passed by Matthias Ekstrom and finished in 4th place. Schneider, 3 times DTM champion, continued his pursuit of Paffett right to the finishing line, but he failed to take his first race win of the season. Luckily, there were no points at stake in this demonstration event. Paffett finished 9/10 of a second ahead of Schneider.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun race, but for me it was one of the hardest races of the year. You know, the temperature's amazing in the car, and I didn't have the drinks pull in the car, it wasn't working, so I had no drink for the whole race. So it was very hard, and Bernd was pushing me really hard for the whole race. So it was tough, but I'm so happy to win. It was great to win first race in China. So
Audi's Ekstrom finished 3rd. The Twilight Indy 200 was the midpoint in the 16-race series. Buddy Rice, the Indy 500 winner, started here on pole and was trying for his 2nd straight victory. He led for 52 laps before losing the lead to Britain's Dan Wheldon. Rice tried to duck under Wheldon on lap 165 but damaged the nose of his car and finished 6th. Things didn't go well for South African Thomas Scheckter, son of 1979 Formula One world champion Jody, as his tired tyres saw him lose grip, drift wide and slam into the wall and out of the race again.
Just almost the cheese grating of the tyres coming off, the rubber itself coming off. See how slow he is? He just can't turn. You can't do anything about it. We talked about crash damage with Cheever's team. These guys told me just today that they're already up to about $500,000 worth of crash damage with this team so far this year.
Wheldon gambled on a pit stop on lap 165, not taking fresh tyres and beating everyone out of the pits. He tried to run the final 87 laps on the same set of tyres, but his gamble backfired when he blew the right rear, leaving Tony Kanaan and Sam Hornish to battle for victory.
So that gamble just wasn't worth it.
Hornish, driving for the Team Penske team that won here last year with Gilles de Ferran, tried to chase Kanaan down.
Well, and he totally, I mean, he was skating on that tire.
He seemed ready to pass Kanaan on the final lap, but couldn't finish the move, lost his momentum and finished 2nd ahead of teammate Helio Castroneves, who was 3rd for the 2nd year in a row. Tony Kanaan led the points race at the midpoint last year. He's in the same position this year, but a bit wiser and more determined not to let it slip away. Kanaan's victory by less than 4/10 of a second over Hornish solidified his hold on 1st place. Kanaan entered the race with a 28-point advantage over Andretti Green teammate Dan Wheldon and left with a 61-point lead.
61 points over Dan.
In the latest NASCAR round, all eyes were on Jeff Gordon when he won pole position for the 4th time in a row, the first time since Bill Elliott did it in 1985. On lap 13, Ryan Newman's car blew a left rear tyre, causing it to career directly into the path of Kurt Busch. Both cars were eliminated from the race, but neither driver was hurt.
Safer barriers, and both guys drive away.
Yeah, amen, man. Those things are great.
Later in the race, Casey Kane was leading under a caution, with Sterling Marlin 2nd and Tony Stewart 3rd. After a restart on lap 126 of the 267-lap race, Stewart passed Marlin on the outside, but his Chevrolet got too close to Kane's Dodge and tapped the back end. Kane started spinning, sliding headfirst into the wall, while Stewart, on new tyres, darted out of harm's way and into the lead. 6 other cars, including those of Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr., were caught up in the collision, but no one was hurt.
And here he comes up right on the back of the 9 and just touches him, but just entering the corner, turns the 9 around it.
A few seconds after the crash, Kane's crew chief, Tommy Baldwin, charged into Stewart's pit and a furious fistfight ensued between members of the two drivers' teams. Tempers were heated for a few minutes between the pit crews before order was restored by NASCAR officials. Kane's team manager, Ray Everham, called for Stewart, the 2002 champion, to be suspended as Tommy Baldwin, on the right, was led away.
Tommy Baldwin, the crew chief on the right, the light-haired fellow.
After the crash, Stewart led for 53 of the next 54 laps. Jeremy Mayfield took the lead briefly, but Stewart repassed him on lap 241 and no one challenged him again. Stewart finished ahead of Jimmy Johnson and Dale Jarrett, second and third respectively. It was Stewart's first victory since last October. With the threat of rain, a tentative start was made to final qualifying for the German Grand Prix. 49 minutes into the one-hour session, Max Biaggi shattered the track record. Then, just 2 minutes from the end, arch rival Valentino Rossi claimed second place on the grid with his Yamaha, courtesy of a time just a tenth of a second slower. Kenny Roberts was a surprise pace setter, the American completing the front row for Suzuki, 2/10 off Biaggi's time. Spanish joint championship leader Sete Gibernau would start fourth on his Honda, keen to make amends for his crash at the last round in Rio de Janeiro. Shinya Nakano secured fifth for Kawasaki, one of the best performances for the struggling Works team. After his first victory in Rio and then the death of his mother, it was a day to forget for Makoto Tamada. A heavy crash condemned him to 12th place on the grid. By the end of the session, most riders had improved on their earlier times, but Aprilia's Jeremy McWilliams wasn't one of them. He probably thought that his crash was over until the bike hit him again. In the 250s, Argentinian Sebastian Porto clung on to pole despite failing to better the time he set the previous day. Alex De Angelis and Roberto Rolfo were second and third fastest. Randy Depunier completed the front row, though how he'd feel on race day was anyone's guess after the French Aprilia rider crashed heavily. He needs to stay up front if he's going to improve on his second place in the championship. In the lightweight 125cc class, it was Andrea Dovizioso of Italy on pole ahead of Hector Barbera, Steve Yankner and Mirko Giansanti. Australian KTM rider Casey Stoner set the fastest time in morning practice. But a heavy fall after lunch left him nursing a broken collarbone and out of action probably for several weeks, as he will have to have it plated. Biaggi's pole position start was his first since last year's Pacific Grand Prix at Motegi. But into the first turn, Biaggi was immediately under threat from his great rival, MotoGP world champion and standings leader Valentino Rossi. Rossi, Biaggi and Kenny Roberts tussled through the first two turns, with Rossi's Yamaha stealing the lead for the briefest of moments before Biaggi reclaimed the top spot. Nobuatsu Aoki became the first of several crashes on the German tarmac. In position for a finish on the podium, Spain's Carlos Checa was the next to crash, sliding gracefully out of contention to the dismay of his Yamaha team. With Biaggi and Rossi still head-to-head, wheel-to-wheel, Gibernau went bouncing into the tarmac for the second time in 2 races. It was a costly mistake for the distraught Honda rider as he dropped from leading the title chase down to third in the championship. With 14 laps to go, Rossi made his move, grabbing the lead. Behind the battling Italians, the carnage continued as Marco Melandri lost control and Norik Abe went over the high side trying to avoid him. Making it worse, their teammates. But minutes after grabbing the lead, Rossi lost it again. He overworked his tyres and just couldn't sustain the pace to stay in front. He tried to match Max, but realised that he'd be headed for an early shower. Soon, Barros and Hopkins got by too, and Biaggi led to the flag. American Nicky Hayden knocked Rossi off the podium.
Yes, of course, it's been a great race. From the practice, we make a good job. This track is not my favorite, but I go very well here, and the bike is very good, I have to say. Honda machine is incredible. Today is working good. I saw Rossi was there and passed me in some place, but and then I can go back to him, and I think we make a good job. So I'm very happy, thanks to my team.
Barros was trialling a new engine from Honda and was pleased with the result. Rossi's lead at the top of the standings has been cut to a single point by Biaggi, while Gibernau's miserable day means that he drops to third, 13 points off the pace. Pedrosa dominated the 250 race, extending his lead in the title. Sebastian Porto was second, 3.5 seconds behind, with Alex De Angelis of San Marino third by 0.02 of a second. The top order in the championship is beginning to open up, but the middle order is still anyone's race. In a tight finish to the 125s, any of 4 riders could have claimed victory. Roberto Locatelli took the win ahead of Spanish duo Hector Barbera and Pablo Nieto. To the delight of Locatelli, championship leader Andrea Dovizioso missed out on the last podium spot. That means he goes second and closes the gap at the top of the standings to just 7 points. The Outdoor Trials World Championship is proving to be one of the best in recent years, thanks to Takahisa Fujinami's staunch challenge to the mighty Dougie Lamkin and the showing of indoor champion Adam Raga. Lamkin came to Aprica, normally an Italian ski resort, off the back of an abysmal performance in the previous round in Andorra. 7th place there put a severe dent in his aspirations of adding an 8th world title. But the Englishman put that poor form behind him to record victory on Saturday and a 2nd place on Sunday. That win at the start of the weekend was his first since April and the 2nd day of the opening round in Ireland. It was good, but not good enough for Lamkin, as the man exchanging positions with him was Fujinami. That meant the Japanese Montesa HRC rider ended the weekend the way he started it, in 1st place, 19 points ahead of Lamkin in the championship table. And with just 2 rounds left in the season, Fujinami is well on course, after 5 years of being Lamkin's runner-up, to finally lift his first outdoor world title. Mark Friescher, on another Montesa HRC, finished in 4th position for the 2nd day running, but his result demoted fellow Spaniard Adam Raga into 5th place. 4 sections were modified after Saturday's trial ahead of Sunday's competition. These changes increased the severity perfectly and offered all the riders another great test. While the course was slightly tougher when compared to the version that had existed 24 hours earlier, increased scores on Sunday were as much to do with unforced errors as they were to do with the alterations. Lamkin and Fujinami failed in sections 13 and 1 respectively, both of which were unchanged. As Lamkin suffered in Andorra, so Adam Raga suffered in Aprica. Raga's 3rd and 5th place results over the weekend allowed Lamkin to overhaul him in the championship race, and he now trails the reigning outdoor champion by 6 points and needs to find some more consistent form if he is to challenge either of the Montesa riders during the last events of the series. The Japanese rider still leads, but 7-times world champ Lamkin at least reclaims 2nd spot. Next up is the Grand Prix of Spain. Las Ventas, in the Spanish capital of Madrid, is the holiest of sights for fans of bullfighting. But recently, fans of a different kind flocked to the arena as the X-Fighters freestyle motocross circus roared into town. Spanish favourite Dani Torres, the bull, was there. No bulls in the arena today, just the stunt bikes flanked by trainee bullfighters. It's the only sport other than bullfighting that has ever been allowed to take place here, and 8 of the best riders from all over the world were determined to make use of the opportunity. The event has been held here since 2001 and has become more and more popular. 23,000 Petrolhead fans crammed into the venue this year, and they weren't disappointed. Thrilled by stunts like the no-hander, the Superman, the Rock Solid, the Tsunami, and the Kiss of Death. There were plenty of Supermen as riders catapulted 25 meters into the air with the aid of 2 specially designed kicker ramps at either side of the ring. But at the end of the awesome display, just 3 grand finalists remained, all of them Americans. Ronnie Renner, Nate Adams and Travis Pastrana, the hottest thing in extreme motocross at the moment, would go wheel to wheel in the grand final as night fell. Ronnie Renner, nicknamed Who's Your Daddy, kicked things off. Winner of 2 FMX events in 2003, Renner is having a lean year this year. The 27-year-old gave a solid performance, grabbing some big air and hitting the traditional backflips, but was only enough for 3rd place. Nate Adams then exploded into action, laying down a Superman backflip. This is the world premiere for this trick, never seen before. A Superman is when the competitor lets the lower half of his body fly off the motorcycle in mid-air. But to do it while pulling off a backflip, that's amazing. Yet Adams' run was still not good enough for 1st place. Adams, the destroyer, was himself destroyed by the red-hot Travis Pastrana. Widely regarded as the best extreme motocross rider in the world today, Pastrana left no one in Madrid in any doubt after this performance. The run was full of original tricks from Pastrana, nicknamed the Gimp. Knack-knack backflips, can-can backflips, flat spin 360. It was all there from Pastrana. The 21-year-old wonder kid won his first extreme motorcycling event at the age of 14 and has never looked back. In this, his European debut, he revved things up with an array of original tricks and was the deserved winner of the 2004 X-Fighters Freestyle Motocross event. Thus, Pastrana on the left won from Adams on the right, with Renner in the middle, 3rd. On the podium, the Gimp couldn't mask his delight at the surroundings and his performance.
I sure hope so. This was probably the coolest race event, whatever you call it. This place in this bullfighting arena was the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. Low pressure, high fun, high excitement. Best riders in the world were here.
Just don't try this at home, kids. Freestyle riders are a new breed of professionals. Part stunt riders, part dirt bike racers and part acrobats. Awesome stuff from any angle. Both the bumpy streets of London and superfast Silverstone may have hosted Formula One cars recently, but in another corner of England, some equally exciting race action was to be found. The British Pedal Car Grand Prix. The pedal car, also known as an HPV or human-powered vehicle, is one of the greenest machines around. All you need is a fit pair of legs. The course was a 1-kilometre circuit round the centre of sleepy Ringwood in rural Hampshire. 37 teams competed, each fielding 3 drivers as well as a pit crewman and a team leader. Great Central Racing led for much of the race, but defending champions KC Racing caught up after a slow start from the back of the grid. Some competitors take the race very seriously. This driver came a cropper whilst trying to take a rival on the inside. The impact dislodged his drive chain, but a quick roadside repair and he was off again. The cars got up to speeds of 30 miles an hour on the downhill section, and after a quick change of riders, the team were off again. The vehicles are made from bicycle wheels and just about anything else you can get your hands on, including farm machinery. The rule is, if it works, it's okay. In the end, the defending champions showed their class, racing to the checkered flag and completing 70 laps in 2 hours. Team 28, Great Central Racing, was second with 69 laps.
Yeah, it's been pretty close. The thing is, we started last on the grid, so we had to gain quite a lot. But then, towards the last half of the race, I think the other guys got a bit tired and managed to lap them, so it was great.
KC Racing's driver admitted that it was adrenaline as much as anything which kept him going, but he also added that the promise of some prize money was another incentive. It may lack some of the glamour of Formula One, but you can't fault the racers for their effort and endeavour, something even Michael Schumacher will appreciate. So, whether you're getting thumped by your bike, looking for a new chauffeur, or just going through a rocky patch, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.